The article about microplastic degradation in marine environments, Grandma continued, reaching for her reading glasses. I have it right here, actually. I printed it out to show everyone. She pulled a folded sheaf of papers from her purse. The entire published study, complete with charts, graphs, and my name listed as lead researcher, Dr. Sarah Chun, Ph.D., Marine Biology, UC San Diego. My brother Marcus's fork clattered onto his plate. He'd been mid-sentence, telling our assembled relatives about finally completing his associate's degree in general studies at age 32. The accomplishment he'd been milking for the past 45 minutes suddenly seemed very small. My mother's wine glass paused halfway to her lips, suspended in shock. My father's face had gone completely blank, his expression unreadable. Nature? My mother managed. The Nature? The Science Journal? Is there another one? Grandma asked innocently, though I caught the slight twinkle in her eye. She knew exactly what she was doing. I spread butter on my dinner roll with careful precision, letting the silence expand. Around the table, aunts, uncles, and cousins were leaning forward, suddenly very interested in a conversation they'd been ignoring 5 minutes ago when I tried to join in. Sarah's research is groundbreaking, Grandma continued, adjusting her glasses as she scanned the paper. She discovered a strain of bacteria that can break down certain types of microplastics at 3 times the rate of previously known organisms. The implications for ocean cleanup are extraordinary. I don't understand, my father said slowly. Sarah works at an aquarium. She feeds fish. I'm a senior research scientist at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography. I corrected, taking a bite of my roll. I have been for 4 years. The aquarium job was during my undergraduate degree, 15 years ago. Marcus found his voice. You have a PhD, since when? Since I defended my dissertation 3 years ago, I said. Dr. Sarah Chun, though I still publish under my maiden name for consistency in academic records. My mother set down her wine glass with a trembling hand. You never told us you were getting a doctorate. I told you I was accepted to the doctoral program at UC San Diego. I said evenly. You said that nice and asked if I could babysit Marcus's kids that weekend because he had a job interview. I don't remember that, she protested weakly. I do, Grandma interjected. I was there. Sarah brought champagne to celebrate. You put it in the fridge and forgot about it. I took it home with me. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the children's table had gone quiet, sensing the tension from the adults. My Aunt Linda, my mother's sister, spoke up. So you have a PhD from UC San Diego, you work at Scripps, and you've published in Nature. What else don't we know? I've published 17 peer-reviewed papers, I said, buttering another roll. Nature was the most prestigious, but I've also appeared in Science, Marine Ecology Progress Series, and Environmental Science and Technology. I've presented at international conferences in Japan, Norway, and Australia. I received a National Science Foundation grant for $847,000 last year to continue my research. And I was recently elected to the board of the International Society for Marine Conservation. Marcus's face had gone red. And you just never mentioned any of this? I mentioned all of it, I corrected. You just never listened. My mother was shaking her head. No, I would remember if you'd told me you were a doctor. A published scientist. Would you? I asked. Because I sent you the link to my dissertation defense. You didn't come. I sent you the announcement when my first paper was published. You replied good for you and then asked if I could loan Marcus $3,000 for a car repair. I invited you to my keynote presentation at the Marine Biology Association conference in San Diego. You said you were too busy helping Marcus move into his new apartment. Each statement landed like a stone dropping into still water. Ripples of realization spreading across my mother's face. That's not fair, Marcus said hotly. I needed help. You're 32 years old, I interrupted. You have 3 children, no stable job, and you've been figuring things out for over a decade. Mom and Dad have given you over $100,000 in the past 5 years alone. They paid for your associate's degree twice because you failed out the first time. They bought you 2 cars. They covered your rent for 8 months. We were helping him get on his feet, my father said defensively. For 14 years, I asked. Meanwhile, I put myself through undergrad with scholarships and part-time jobs. I funded my own master's degree. My PhD was paid for through my research assistantship and grants I wrote myself. I bought my own car, my own home. I've never asked you for a dime. And you never once asked me how I did it. Grandma was nodding along, her expression satisfied. I tried to tell you, she said to my mother. I've been trying to tell you for years that you were taking Sarah for granted. That you were so focused on Marcus's problems that you couldn't see Sarah's accomplishments? Mom, stay out of this, my mother snapped, then seemed to realize how that sounded. I mean, we're proud of both our children. Are you? I asked, because you spent the last hour listening to Marcus talk about finally getting a 2-year degree at 32, which is fine. Education at any age is valuable. But I have a PhD, Mom. I'm doing research that could help clean up the oceans. And you didn't even know. My cousin Jennifer, who was in her first year at community college, raised her hand tentatively. Can I ask a question? What exactly does your research do? I smiled at her, grateful for the genuine interest. I study how certain bacteria interact with plastic polymers in marine environments. Essentially, I'm looking for natural solutions to break down the millions of tons of plastic in our oceans. The strain I discovered can metabolize polyethylene terephthalate PET plastic much faster than anything we've seen before. That's incredible, Jennifer breathed. So you're like, saving the ocean? I'm trying to help, I said. It's a small piece of a much larger puzzle, but yes, the goal is to develop scalable biological solutions to plastic pollution. Why didn't you tell us it was such a big deal? Marcus demanded. You always made it sound so boring. Oh, I work with bacteria and plastic samples. You made it sound like some weird hobby. I described my research accurately, I said. You just never asked follow-up questions. You never asked what the implications were, what the applications could be, why it mattered. You heard bacteria and plastic and tuned out because it wasn't about you. My father cleared his throat. That's not entirely fair, Sarah. We've always supported your interests. My interests, I repeated. Dad, this isn't a hobby. This is my career, my life's work. I have a laboratory with 12 graduate students working under me. I have a research budget of over $1 million. I lecture at the university. I consult for environmental organizations and government agencies. This isn't an interest. This is who I am. Grandma passed the printed article to Aunt Linda, who began reading it with widening eyes. Sarah, this is really impressive. The methodology alone. And these results. Linda, you don't even understand science, my mother said dismissively. I understand enough to recognize important work when I see it, Aunt Linda shot back. And I understand that my niece is brilliant and that all been too self-absorbed notice. The truth of that statement settled over the table like snow. Marcus pushed back from the table. I need some air. He walked out to the back porch, and I could see him through the window, pacing and running his hands through his hair. My mother's eyes were filling with tears. I don't understand how this happened. How we didn't know. You didn't want to know, Grandma said bluntly. Sarah's always been self-sufficient. She never caused problems, never needed bailing out, never demanded attention. So you gave all your attention to Marcus because he was the one with the crises. The squeaky wheel got the grease, and Sarah just quietly became extraordinary. I tried to tell you, I said softly, so many times. But every conversation became about Marcus, his job search, his relationship problems, his financial troubles, and I just stopped trying. It was easier to let you think I was doing something small and simple than to keep reaching for recognition that never came. My father's voice was hoarse. What was your dissertation on? It was such a small question, but it cracked something open in my chest. Bacterial enzymatic pathways in polyethylene degradation in cold water marine environments. And it was good? I received the Dean's Award for Outstanding Dissertation. I said it was selected as one of the top 3 in the entire College of Sciences that year. He absorbed this, his face a mixture of pride and grief. I should have been there. Yes, I agreed. You should have. My mother was crying openly now. I'm so sorry. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I don't need apologies, I said, surprised by how steady my voice was. I need you to actually see me. Not as the easy child who doesn't need attention. Not as the responsible one who has it all figured out. As me, as a person with accomplishments worth celebrating and a career worth asking about. Jennifer was still reading the article, her finger tracing the lines. It says here you're working on a larger study with international collaborators. Is that happening? Yes, I said, grateful again for her interest. We have research teams in Norway, Japan, and Australia collecting samples and running parallel experiments. We're trying to see if the bacterial strain works in different ocean temperatures and conditions. That's so cool, she said. Could I maybe learn more about this? I'm thinking about transferring to a 4-year school, and I've been interested in environmental science. I'd love to talk with you about it, I said warmly. I can show you around the lab sometime if you'd like. Introduce you to my graduate students. Really? Her face lit up. Really? My mother watched this exchange, something shifting in her expression. You have graduate students? You teach? I'm a professor, I said. Assistant professor of marine biology. I teach 2 courses each semester and mentor doctoral students in their research. Professor Chun, Grandma said with satisfaction. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Marcus came back inside, his face strained. He sat down heavily and looked at me directly for what felt like the first time in years. I'm sorry, he said. I'm sorry I made everything about me. I'm sorry I never asked about your life. It was so unexpected that I didn't know how to respond. I've been jealous, he continued, for years. You always had your shit together and I was always a mess. And instead of being proud of you, I just resented it. Resented that you made it look easy when everything's always been hard for me. It wasn't easy, I said quietly. I just didn't broadcast my struggles. I worked 70-hour weeks during my doctoral program. I dealt with failed experiments and rejected papers and funding applications that went nowhere. I had breakdowns and moments where I wanted to quit. But I didn't have the luxury of falling apart because I knew no one would catch me. So I just kept going. That's not fair, my mother protested. We would have helped. Would you? I asked. Or would you have told me to quit, to find something easier? To stop being so intense and just relax? She couldn't answer. We both knew the truth. My father reached across the table and took my hand. His palm was rough, calloused from his construction work. Tell me about the research, really tell me. I want to understand, so I did. I explained the problem of microplastics in the ocean, how they break down from larger pieces but never fully degrade, accumulating in the food chain and in the bodies of marine life. I described how I isolated the bacterial strain from water samples collected near a plastic debris field in the Pacific. How I'd spent 2 years in the lab, testing and refining, failing and trying again. My father listened with an intensity I'd never seen from him before. He asked questions, real questions, not polite ones. He wanted to know how it worked, what the implications were, what the next steps looked like. By the time I finished, the dinner was cold, but no one seemed to care. I wish I'd known, he said finally. I wish I'd asked. I wish I'd demanded your attention, I admitted. Instead of just accepting being overlooked, Grandma reached over and squeezed my hand. I always saw you, sweetheart. I've been saving every article, every announcement. I have a whole scrapbook at home of your accomplishments. I read every paper, even the ones I barely understand. I'm so proud of you. Tears stung my eyes. Thank you, Grandma. That means everything. Why didn't you say something sooner? My mother asked Grandma. If you knew all this, why didn't you tell us? I tried, Grandma said, but you didn't want to hear it. You were too invested in your narrative, Marcus, as the struggling one who needed help, Sarah as the successful one who didn't need anything. It was easier than dealing with the reality that you were neglecting one child to enable the other. The words were harsh but fair. My mother flinched but didn't argue. So what do we do now? Marcus asked. How do we fix this? You start by actually being interested in Sarah's life, Grandma said. Not just asking how's work but really asking. Reading her papers even if you don't understand them all. Attending her presentations. Celebrating her wins the way you'd celebrate your own. And maybe, I added carefully, by letting me be human too. By understanding that just because I'm capable doesn't mean I don't need support. I'm tired of being the strong one, the reliable one, the the one who has it all together. Sometimes I need help too. We can do that, my father said. We will do that. Starting with this, my mother said, reaching for the printed article. Explain it to me, all of it. I want to understand what my daughter does, so I did. I walked her through the methodology, the results, the implications. She asked questions, some basic, some surprisingly insightful. Aunt Linda joined in, then Uncle Robert, then even Marcus. By the time dessert was served, the conversation had shifted entirely. Instead of listening to Marcus talk about his struggles, the family was discussing ocean conservation, the impact of plastic pollution, and the potential applications of my research. Jennifer was taking notes on her phone. I'm definitely going to look into environmental science programs. This is exactly the kind of work I want to do. I can help you with that, I offered. I know the department heads at several good programs. I can write you a recommendation letter if you need one. Her eyes widened. You'd do that? Of course. My mother watched these interactions with something like wonder. You're really good at this. At teaching, at inspiring people. It's my job, I said simply. It's what I love. I should have known that, she said. I should have seen it. You're seeing it now, I said. That's what matters. Later that evening, as people were getting ready to leave, Marcus pulled me aside. Can I ask you something? How did you do it? How did you keep going when no one was paying attention?
I thought about it carefully. I did it for me, I said.
Not for recognition or approval. I did it because the work mattered. Because I wanted to contribute something meaningful to the world. The validation from others was nice when it came, but it couldn't be the reason. The reason had to be internal, he nodded slowly. I think that's where I went wrong. I kept waiting for someone to tell me I was good enough, instead of just being good enough. You are good enough, I said. But you have to believe it yourself. And you have to stop measuring your worth against mine. We're on different paths. That doesn't make either one better or worse. Your path seems a lot more impressive, he said with a weak smile. Your path gave you 3 beautiful kids and a life you're building, I countered. That's impressive too. It's just different, he hugged me then, tightly. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. I'm proud of you too, I said. For getting your degree, for showing up, for trying. When everyone had left, I helped Grandma to her car. Thank you, I said. For bringing the article. For making them see. You shouldn't have had to wait for an old woman to force the issue, she said. But I'm glad I could help. You deserve to be celebrated, Sarah. Don't ever forget that. Driving home that night, I thought about the evening. The shock on my parents' faces, the genuine interest from my cousins, the apologies from Marcus. It wasn't a perfect resolution. Years of neglect couldn't be fixed in one dinner, but it was a start. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. I read the whole article. I understood maybe 40% of it, but I'm so proud of you. Can we have lunch next week? I want to hear more about your work. Really hear it. I smiled and typed back. I'd like that. Another text from my father. Your grandmother sent me links to your other papers. I'm going to read them all. Even if it takes me a year. Take your time, I replied. I'm not going anywhere. The truth was, I'd built a life I was proud of with or without their recognition. The research mattered. The students I mentored mattered. The potential impact of my work mattered. I'd stopped waiting for my family's approval years ago and started living for my own sense of purpose. But having them finally see me, having them finally ask, finally care, finally celebrate, that mattered too. Not because I needed it to validate my worth, but because everyone deserves to be seen by the people they love. Everyone deserves to have their accomplishments celebrated, their struggles acknowledged, their humanity recognized. I'd built a successful career in the shadows of my family's attention. Now, stepping into their light didn't diminish what I'd built. It just meant I didn't have to build alone anymore. And that, in its own way, was worth celebrating. Dr. Sarah John, published researcher, professor, marine conservation advocate, and finally, a daughter whose family saw her clearly. It felt like coming home.